Here we are.
Okay.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Ruth.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's been a while since we've done one of these Easter conversations, isn't it?
Yes, and on Zoom.
And on Zoom. I know, it's like the old days.
Well,
We did hope, didn't we, to have a real life conversation down at the box in better weather, but it's a grim, soggy day, so we've decided to go old school and return to Zoom.
take shelter.
Yeah. And today we thought we'd chat about something that is probably a universal experience at the moment. We wanted to talk about anxiety and kind of have a chat about why that's circulating so much at the moment, and have a bit of a think around it, and also have some practical suggestions about managing it. Managing anxiety at the moment. So in my work as a counsellor and just personally or among friends and family, I've noticed a real rise in anxious experiences at the moment, and I've certainly felt it myself recently as well. Have you felt similar? Have you noticed anything?
I just noticed last week with the change in the rules that I just felt a little bit. It was last Tuesday, I think, actually, and I noticed when I was teaching my classes, when I was coaching, that everybody kind of felt a bit flat.
Yeah, the energy
was a bit low. The vibration was not its usual self, but I think that's because we just had that news about the changes and it just felt a bit kind of, oh, it's back.
Yeah.
It's coming back again. Oh, and I just didn't really know what to do with it. And I just remember being aware that there was a bit of a physical response to whatever was going on in the news that day.
Yeah. Because I think, it'd been around that time when it was almost exactly 6 months before everything had to change. And I think, well, personally speaking, I think I was just head down, cope, adapt for 6 months, all of that time. And I think that I've heard a few other people say that as well. Just carry on adapting, and things kind of opening up and changing, kids going back to school, things like that. So maybe a bit of hope stirring, and then back into it, numbers rising. And so I think it's really, I've noticed it's really affected people.
It's not as novel anymore.
No, it's layered, isn't it? We've been doing this for a while. And there's still that uncertainty, big uncertainty about how long we're doing this for, how long we'll be separated from each other. And that in itself is something I've been thinking about in terms of anxiety. Just to start at that really basic level, we need each other. We need human company to feel safe in our systems, safe in our nervous systems, and to regulate each other. I mean, it's just fundamental. And so many of us aren't getting it at the moment.
Yeah. I think it's just a natural human experience to be with other humans. As you say, it's just so vital, and we're not islands. We're not created to stand alone and to be, fiercely independent without the need. And I don't even know if it's a need, but it's like a organic, natural thing. That's how we evolve. We
biologically need each other. It's just so wired in. And so to be told, I think, that we can't and we shouldn't, and that actually we'll be judging each other, or we'll be judged if we do, that's really stressful on a very fundamental level. Not even a conscious level, it's a physical experience. And I think we've been there for a while.
And I think that in terms of anxiety, around, whether it be this or whether it be something else, that there's a very physical feeling, whether it's the kind of the knot in the tummy, whether it's the breathing shallower and it's closer to up here, whether it's withdrawing because you don't know you're not thinking clearly about it. You're in fear rather than in a settled state. You're in a fearful state. You're kind of thinking, "Ugh," and then you become more scared or more anxious, and in that state. And so physically, I find that that is where I see it first.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether I'm going faster, I'm moving around faster because my body's been dictated by what's going on in here.
So your thoughts are faster as well. Everything's faster up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. That really helps me kind of get more to grips with what's been happening for me recently, which everything felt fast.
Yeah.
Heart rate felt fast, breathing felt fast, not very deep. Digestive system felt fast. It's also connected. And the thoughts, racing thoughts, and again, I'm hearing so much of that too. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I just wanted to kind of, there's something that's been ringing in my ears for months actually about this time, about this, what we're all going through in the world. And it's just from an article. I can't even remember what the article was, but it was a goodie, and I've written it down. So it said, no sane person feels good during a global pandemic. So be grateful for the discomfort of your sanity. And that for me was just so normalizing. Like, we're supposed to not feel comfortable at the moment. And that not feel comfortable could be feeling very low and definitely anxious, very unsettled. Something about normalizing that and saying, yes, we're human. This is meant to be how we're feeling.
Yeah, I think what is so important is to just understand the feeling, accept that that's how I'm feeling, and that's okay. That is absolutely, totally, and utterly okay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't think yourself out of it.
So tempting to do that.
Yeah. Just be with the feeling. And I think that's the important thing. It's just, you don't need to define yourself by any thinking. You just need to feel. And right now I feel anxious, or I feel sad, I feel down, I feel flat. You don't need to think yourself around it or why or fix it. Just be okay with feeling it. It's okay. You're going to be okay. The house isn't going to fall on top of your head because you feel anxious.
Yeah. That's really something in slowing down and acknowledging it and really naming it, because I think it's a really common experience to run away from it.
Oh yeah.
And to ignore it, numb anxiety by all sorts of ways. We all know them.
Yeah.
And I think there's escapism, and then there's kind of chronic numbing of anxiety. And there's actually, and I'm not minimizing how difficult it is to turn around and face that fear, because I think it is a fear, what's going on in anxiety. But to actually, like you say, just name it and say, this is how I'm feeling, and try and just accept it and see what's underneath it.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. So it's about living. I suppose what it is, it's like, it's living in the feeling of the thoughts rather than in the feeling around the circumstances, because there's nothing we can do about the circumstances. Nothing. But we can do something about how we're feeling.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about just before we started recording, wasn't it? About control.
Yeah.
I think this kind of anxiety at the moment, and we were acknowledging that there's a whole range, a whole spectrum of anxiety, right from kind of generalized anxiety to disorders that maybe need a different, more kind of medical approach. Yeah. But we're talking about anxiety of these times, really, and about control.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just it's about I know it's hard, but it's only as hard as you think it is, to let go of a thought. So I don't know what that thought might be. I mean, it could range from, do I need to stock up on my loo roll right now, to are my kids going to not get back to school come after half term, and how is that going to affect my work?
Yeah,
it's massive. So, and it's probably it's in that thinking that lies the ability for us to be able to create the space where we acknowledge the feeling, We acknowledge we have thoughts, feelings around a thought that causes us to feel slightly panicked. But we also can create a new thought that I don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time. I don't know what's going to happen come after half term, whether our children are going to buy. So therefore, I cannot spend the energy being anxious about that right at this moment in time.
In the not knowing.
Uh-huh.
But trying to control. I think that is a real source of anxiety, trying to control what we can't possibly know. But we're being fed, and I think it's really important for me and to mention this, is that we're being fed such a lot of information, and so much of it we know that we can't even trust. So it's about kind of, for me, coping with anxiety is a lot about how much we allow ourselves to receive, or what we put into our ears, our mouths, but what we kind of eat and drink, what we allow ourselves to absorb in terms of social media and things like that too. Really, it isn't about what's kind of it's about that wisdom. I think what is actually truly that we need, rather than kind of consuming all of this stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're all born with love and wisdom, and completely. And it is just our ability, our very, very clever, but also really damaging ability to tell us that we're not, that we are not wise, full of love, and full of peace. We do that. We do that all by ourselves because of how we tune in to thoughts that don't serve us. And that's including anxiety, fear, sadness, unhappiness, depression, all of those things. We are so clever. We are so able, and we are so creative. So that can go against us and for us. So our thoughts, we can make them super creative. So I can go down a whole rabbit hole of how my anxiety and how this world is going to just explode in 4 weeks' time. Or I can go down a different creative hole where I'm going to use this time or to get to know me better and listen into me and lean into me a bit better, and how this is all kind of pushing certain buttons that I maybe haven't been aware of.
Yes.
It's kind of how we use it to our advantage, if we believe wholeheartedly that we are peace and love and wisdom.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity, actually. I think that, deeply uncomfortable as it is, feeling anxious is an opportunity to tune in to actually what it is we need more of at this point. And it could be something that we've never given ourselves before, or because these are unprecedented times, so what is it? I think it's a real opportunity to really listen in and change. Actually, I do think anxiety is about a call to change something.
Yeah.
Either, like we say, about our thought patterns, or maybe it's that you actually do need to take deeper self-care of yourself.
Totally.
Or change your commitments.
Yes.
Really, like, looking at the patterns in your life, your food. What would you say about kind of
so I mean, well, I'll come to food in a minute, but I was just thinking that I had a meeting with a group of women, and we were talking about how one woman has transformed pretty much her experience of life because she diarizes her self-care. And it doesn't change. So if she's got a block of 2 hours because she's going for a very long beach walk, or she's got a massage, or she's got doing yoga, that's blocked. That doesn't get shimmied around to suit her corporate life. That's a no-no. Whereas before it did. That's not really important. I really need to have this meeting, so therefore I'll knock off my long walk on the beach with my dog to do this meeting. So that doesn't happen anymore. And I just thought, that's amazing, because she is now living a much more fulfilling and peaceful life, because she's looking after herself. Quite basically, that's all it is.
I just found myself relaxing even thinking about that's possible.
Yes, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she didn't realize that either. She didn't realize that that was possible. She didn't even going there. I think when she started on that path of just putting in like a little 20 minutes to herself to sit and breathe for a bit with a cup of tea, then that grew into actually going out of her home to go and do something like walk the dog for an hour on the beach. And now those things that she has done and has put in place for herself, they are non-negotiable. Absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to her corporate life.
Yeah.
Her working life, they're non-negotiable. Obviously, if something happened to her family member and she needed to help or dash or do something, of course, that's different. But in terms of the corporate stuff, no, because it's just so easy, as she said, to spend 10 hours on her computer. It's just so easy.
Well, that's it. I think that we're told to live fast and be productive.
Yeah.
And actually,
It's horseshit, because
it's a myth.
we're not defined by what car we drive, how many hours we work, what clothes we wear to work. It doesn't make us happy. You know, it just doesn't. It's not. That is not. When we do, when I used to think that. I used to think that, you know, what car I drove, what I wore. I remember when I met my husband, I thought it was really important that whenever I got off the plane in London, that I was dressed in a certain way, because he would think differently about me. I mean, it's so ridiculous, the stories we tell ourselves.
And it's a cultural feed as well. And that's what I meant about kind of being careful what you ingest from culture, from social media, from the news. You know, when you're hearing that, when you're listening to it, for in the same way that woman blocks off 2 hours of self-care, I don't think that it's much different to say, I'm going to read some news in whatever format for this 20 minutes on this day, and preferably not before bed. But so you're not constantly drip feeding the anxiety loop and repeating the thought patterns. Yes. It's really important to change something, even if it's one thing, because that always leads to another.
Yes. And it will then take you down a nicer rabbit hole that you'll want to explore more of. You know, there'll be lights, there'll be fairy lights in the rabbit hole. You know, it'll be pretty, it'll be nice. It's an adventure. It's not a horrible black dark rabbit hole that you don't see a return or an exit from. You know, and I feel that that's really important, and also to know that you have got the tools to do this. And I think, in terms of, you know, when you talked about putting physically putting stuff into your mouth or into your body, you know, so food wise, you know, it's a sort of little analogy with the food. You know, if you made a plate of food that tasted disgusting and you thought, oof, God, or it was a recipe maybe that you hadn't tried before, and it was something, you know, you weren't cooking from your head, you weren't cooking from intuitively, you had a recipe, but you thought, I like the sound of this, and you made it for everybody, and everybody kind of went, ugh. You just wouldn't make it again, would you? You just wouldn't, or you'd add different ingredients, or you mightn't have it with, you know, you just do it differently. So when it comes to, you know, us and life, why do we keep cooking up the same stories and the same thoughts that don't serve us, like that plate of food? What's the difference in taking the plate of food and never ever cooking that again, and the same with the thoughts around pain that cause you physical and mental torture? Why not create a different way of thinking around, you know, take the opposite thinking of I feel scared into I feel secure? You know, and I know that might sound patronizing, or I'm dumbing down the experience of your anxiety, but it's your experience of your anxiety is only on the thoughts that you've given it, because you are okay in this moment.
In this moment, that's what we were talking about as well, wasn't it? About in this moment.
Keep coming back. You got to keep coming back, because as that wee quote says, anxiety is simply reminding you that you are effectively living in the unknown, moment by moment.
Yeah. And I think what's happened this year is the unknown has become really amplified. And it's the control that we maybe thought we had over things is really kind of been increased, or the lack of control. We just feel so powerless, don't we?
Yeah, and powerless and helpless.
Yeah, but for me, what's happened recently is it's like an about turn on what I can control, actually, and it's minute. not as minute, but the really small details about my environment, about how I choose to use my time, about how much exercise I get, even about how I'm going to take this next breath. And those are really empowering things to do.
Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
in the moment. But like you say, it's in the moment if we've only got this moment.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we're able to settle our thoughts, settle our head, settle all of the stuff that's rising up, and just settle, just be, and just imagine the sea that's really rough, just all of a sudden just settling nice and calm and beautiful, little tiny little ins and outs, and just imagine that you are settling too, and sit with that,
Yeah.
because that's where our actual innate wisdom is. That's where we are actually, without thought, without all the mishmash of, thinking too far
Yeah.
away. Yeah, thinking what was. So 3 months ago we were here, and what about 3 months later we're there? You don't know. You don't know. And so give yourself a break. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting trying to either predict or go from an experience that happened back there.
It is exhausting, and it's exhausting for a reason, because we're in this vigilant, hyper state of fight or flight, and that's what the anxiety experience is. It's about being up on that, in that nervous system experience of I need to be ready, and that's why we feel so short of breath, and we feel panicky, and our heart rate increases, and we feel tense and aches and pains. It's because we are primed and ready to respond to this threat that we are telling ourselves is happening imminently, and it's exhausting to stay in that space for so long. So we need to make
Sorry.
conscious effort to do things that calm the nervous system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that way your thoughts change.
Yeah, I guess so. Or just be with you. Be in that lovely space. Because it will change. Because if you think about how many thoughts do you have in a day? I mean,
That's
in a minute,
isn't it?
gazillions. So that they will pass and a new one will come in. Not
Yeah.
necessarily will the new one be,
Yeah.
better than the old one, but it will be a different thought.
I like, it's that wave analogy again. It's the sea. There will always be another wave. You
Yes.
can let it pass.
And there's always sun above the clouds. So
Yeah.
today outside it's grey and wet. And for a lot of people it's a stinking day. It's not very nice. But to know that there is above that cloud level a beautiful blue sky and sun is exactly what we have. There's always that. There is always that little light, that lovely, healthy glow that is absolutely always present.
Mm-hmm.
And we always have it. And it's just about returning to it when we can.
We said that we would so yeah, it's probably a good time to kind of think about this now. We said that we would kind of end with a few practical things that can, maybe from our own experience, definitely from our own experience, can help with acknowledging anxiety and coming through it. And I think that's really important, actually, that first one. So do you have any kind of pointers? Like,
I think befriend uncertainty. You'll learn a lot about yourself. I mean, I know that's a little bit kind of, it's probably maybe for a more practical people that feel they need a solution, an answer, that if you befriend the uncertainty and that uncertainty within you and get to sit with it for a bit, you will find so many amazing things about yourself that you didn't know. I think that's a really good thing. And, on a practical level, eat well, eat things that nourish you, your brain, your body. If it didn't feel good to have a bottle of wine and 10 bags of crisps, then it wasn't good. But if it felt amazing, then it's okay for you to have a bottle of wine and 10 bags of crisps. But if you get that shit feeling afterwards, you think, oh crap. And now I don't feel any better. I haven't resolved anything. Now I feel even worse about having the blinking bottle of wine and the 10 bags of crisps. So therefore, it hasn't served you. It hasn't done what you'd hoped. So that little coping mechanism in the wine and the crisps, or the wine and the popcorn, or the wine and the chocolate hasn't helped. Then it wasn't a good one. It's not a good go-to for you.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's that. There's and things like foods to think about are nice soothing foods. Like salmon is a really nice soothing food. It's also got well, a good salmon, I suppose, if you go for a salmon that's, if you can get a wild salmon, so not maybe a supermarket salmon, but one that's uh, probably, if you can get an organic one, or one that's, maybe even go to a fishmonger, or go to the sea and speak to a fisherman, or go somewhere where you can get it fresh, because probably honestly all the goodness is out of it by then. I'm thinking, what else have I noted down here? So yeah, so it's high in omega-3s, which, as
Yeah.
all fish is, so mackerel and everything else, and they're your good fatty acids that your body doesn't make. So it's good to put some of those in. And it also lowers your blood pressure. So that's a good to know. Dark chocolate,
Yeah.
silver linings, in moderation. So that's flavonoids, and that's just antioxidant. So you can eat a little bit of that and enjoy every little square, and know that it's doing you a little bit of good. Amino acids, so that's in terms of your dairy, your meat produce, if you're not vegan or vegetarian. If you are, then getting it through your pulses is a good way to look after that side of you, and that's important. Vitamin C is essential, especially at this time of year, and vitamin D. So vitamin C comes in the form of your tomatoes, your peppers, your citrus, and then vitamin E is also a good one to try and think about, which you can have in the form of almonds. Almonds are really lovely and good for you. You can toast them, you can put them on top of things. They, if you find them too dry or too, boring, you can chop them up and put a bit of salt and chili in them and stick them on top of something. It's really nice.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think, there are lots of, and also I know it's maybe a bit obvious, but chamomile as a herb. So whether you take that in tea form, or whether you take that in a herb form, so in a tablet form, is also very soothing as well.
Yeah.
So what is the thing about chamomile? I think it is just a natural antioxidant as well. So all of these things are just getting toxins out of our body. Also is a passive way of reducing our anxiety and stress.
Yeah, because there is an internal reaction to all of these things
That's it.
that maybe aren't so good for us, that are, and maybe feeding that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And your skin
Yeah.
sometimes will demonstrate that what you're doing and how you're living isn't necessarily serving you.
Mhm.
So your skin will let you know too. It's the
Yeah.
biggest organ in our body, and it will let you know, as well as our digestive system, which is our second brain, which will also give you some feedback as well. So yeah, so just wee practical things like that, and I'm sure you've got loads that are very
Yeah.
easy to
They're
do.
great. They're great. It's I think it's so different for each of us, isn't it? I mean, I think the experience of anxiety is so different for each of us. It shows up so differently. And also the way through it will be different for each of us as well. And it's never one thing. It's actually a kind of suite of different things that come together. For me, caffeine is a big one. I mean, I'm not ready, don't think I ever will be, to part with caffeine. I love my cup of coffee. But if I have two, that's me. I can feel more activated, and yeah. So that's the kind of biofeedback thing. I believe I'm feeling anxious, so I'm going to be more anxious.
Yep.
So I'm really taking care of that.
Good.
I think it's the first thing to do is notice. And I think it's noticing the physical feelings and really acknowledging, oh, this is how I'm feeling. Just that's so supportive to start off with, rather than running past it. And then very, very simply is just to breathe. And actually notice that when we're anxious, we're breathing from very, very top of our chest, and that doesn't support us. So starting to move the breath down into your stomach, like a soft belly breath, and that actually allows just more oxygen into your system, and it allows all of your systems to work more efficiently, and your nervous system starts to be soothed as well. So it takes 3 deep belly breaths for that to start to work. So getting into kind of a habit of doing that, the more we practice it, the more it happens consciously. And seeking each other out as well. I think there's such a lot of shame and guilt maybe around feeling anxiety or low mood or depression, and it actually makes us not talk about it and not acknowledge it. But to be able to reach out to each other and say, this is how I'm feeling, I actually think it's supportive of everyone, not just for yourself. You know, it's just real. It's normal to feel anxious at times as a human, and it's normal at the moment to feel more anxiety or feel more triggered into anxiety. So there's something really supportive, I think, about going, this is how I'm feeling, to someone you know and love and trust, and getting that support back. It means everything.
Yeah. It takes you out of yourself as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's also, you know, when we realize that something is thought created, it's a little less scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And
Uh,
something shared is always,
what's that, sorry?
you always feel better sharing something that feels too big for you to hold on to. You know,
Yeah.
and it dilutes
Isn't
it.
it? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also, finally, for me, there's always something underneath anxiety, and it could be that there's some fear feeding it, and that again isn't something to turn away from, but to turn towards,
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging that we all feel that too, and that there's always something that we can adjust and change, in our lives to, um, yeah, to feel better and to feel more supported.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not to be, it's not something that, and I hope that I haven't given the impression that it's about something that you can, it's just a throwaway. Anxiety is just something that that your thoughts have created, and you can just rethink a new thought and be done with it.
No, no.
I completely understand that, but it's just that it's like you having your coffee. So if you're feeling a little bit, you take the coffee and then you feel a bit more. It's that feeling, it's that thinking around the anxiety, and then we think more about the anxiety, and then it creates more anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think if we can just calm,
Yeah. I
breathe.
think it's both. I think it's like noticing. So when I said notice, it's
Noticing is
noticing
key.
the physical, but
Yeah, I think
noticing that too.
the noticing, I think you're there. If
Mm.
you notice and lean in, you are on a winning streak.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Great. Any final words about?
No, just, peace of mind is not exclusive or elusive to any of us.
That's true. That's so true. And I actually, there was one that I didn't say, which was move, which,
Yes.
as an East Rocks member, hopefully we're all moving. But just, it's just priceless, isn't it? To be able to move out in nature, that's just a magic combination to shift any emotional experience, actually.
Just
Um,
fantastic.
mm,
Yeah, and I know getting yourself there can be the hardest part. Getting yourself there in your head, getting yourself even there physically,
yeah,
actually getting your physical being in the space can be really hard. But if you can transport yourself to that post movement feeling in nature, you'll want it. You'll want to sniff it up and be there every time. So yeah, if you can I used to say, if you could bottle the post workout feeling, just
yeah,
bottle it. And then when you're feeling either apathetic, can't get myself there, I'm not in the mood for it, I just can't do it, have a wee sniff of that, and then go, actually, that's what I need.
yeah. I'm off.
Yeah. There'll be no holding you back.
Great.
Oh,
Thanks,
so nice to
Lisa.
speak to you, Ruth.
Yeah, you too. And let's chat again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good day. Hope
You
you've got a
too.
brolly.
Take care. Bye.